Recognize this as an opportunity to learn and refocus strategies to align with your comfort levels and risk tolerance. It was basically like skill issue. For today's video, we're going to be taking a brief look at the InternVL3 family of models. Now, this specific video is going to focus on the 2 billion parameter variant of InternVL3, as I feel it strikes a nice balance between performance and actual ability to be run on more consumer-grade hardware. With that, we can just take a peek at the Hugging Face repository right here, where we can read, we introduce InternVL3, an advanced MLLM series that demonstrates superior overall performance. I do find something interesting about the actual introduction here, in that they talk about the multimodal capabilities being extended to encompass tool usage, GUI agents, and things of that sort. Obviously, agentic frameworks rely a lot on having vision models because they can actually visually navigate around a user interface. So while this isn't going to be an in-depth test involving this in some agentic use cases, this definitely kind of gets my brain going in terms of trying this in some agentic framework, or perhaps the phone use agent demonstration that I actually had previously made. So this is pretty cool for that. With that, if we just pop over here, we can see the entire InternVL3 family, ranging from a 1 billion parameter variant all the way up to a 78 billion parameter variant. For today, as I think I stated, we are just going to use the 2 billion parameter variant as it's a good balance, and I am actually using my laptop 4060 GPU right here. I do have a bit of overhead in terms of VRAM utilization as I am using OBS to screen record here. However, with the 2 billion parameter variant of InternVL3, we should be all right in getting this to run on the laptop as well as having OBS running. I'm not going to go too technical with this. Basically, I want to just get a feel for it and see how well it does. Being such a rather small vision model, we want to basically see if it's any good or not. The only thing I think of something interesting here is they talk about how in InternVL3 they integrate this V2PE, which utilizes smaller, more flexible position increments for visual tokens. But basically what this means is that this would hypothetically allow this to be better at looking at videos or very large and detailed images. If you click on this link, it actually just will bring you to this research paper right here, and the abstract of said research paper pretty much gives us all of the information we need to know about that, where it talks about how models would historically struggle in long context scenarios, particularly in tasks involving videos, high-res images, or lengthy image text documents. With that, we're basically going to hop in. Something that I struggle with a lot of these vision models is that they're kind of difficult to run in terms of you can't just really go on Ollama and just run this, or go into LM Studio and pull it through there. So I have gone ahead and basically I clotted out a little Gradio script for this, where we can just kind of interact with it through a simple Gradio web interface. With that, I am essentially going to just go through those steps right now. The first thing I'm going to do is create a new Conda environment for this. Now, I am going to be using a script here that was written, so I will put this on GitHub as a GitHub gist, so that way anyone who actually wants to go ahead and run this as well locally will be able to do so just by running that script. Assuming you do have these following dependencies installed, which I will also paste with that. Once all of these dependencies have completed installing, and keep in mind everything I'm saying right here is only kind of specifically regarding the Gradio script that I'm going to be running following this, but as I said, I will actually just go ahead and put that on GitHub, so anyone who wants to play with this can actually do so in the same manner. With that, I am just going to use Nano to create a new script called vl3.py. I know I'm quite unique in naming, and here's the script right here, so I'll just copy it from VS Code, paste it in here, save it, and then once we run python vl3.py, it will go ahead and first and foremost actually download the model files, assuming that everything runs without error, which it very likely shouldn't. Fortunately, this specific model is not very large. It is a 4.2 gigabyte download. And once the models have completed downloading, we will see the local URL in which our Gradio web interface is running on. In addition to that, we will see the increase in VRAM utilization. Now keep in mind that prior to actually loading this model into our graphics card, it was using around 1.6 to 1.7 gigabytes of video RAM because of OBS or screen recording overhead. So with that, we can assume that this is probably currently using a little over 4 gigs of VRAM for the actual model. I am going to basically only be testing this with images today, as one, the script here is not set up to do video kind of parsing or understanding. Two, it would likely overwhelm the card, I think. So with that, let's just do a quick test and be like, hey, what's up? Because you do have to remember that this is actually also a language model, so it will respond to you as a language model would. And in the actual Hugging Face repository here for these specific models, they do tell you what the language part for each subsequent model size in this family is. In this case, this would be Qwen 2.5, 1.5b as the actual language part. And then we also have the vision part for the model there as well. So first and foremost, as they did mention this having the ability to kind of act agentically, it was implied even if it wasn't specifically mentioned, I would like to ask it something relating to this actual screenshot from the Android phone emulator in Android Studio. As you'll notice, you can't just press enter and expect it to do it. You have to click send, as I had kind of messed up there. All right, so it gives us basically 20. Now, I don't believe, oh, T-Mobile was there. Okay, so I don't know where I got this screenshot from. Maybe I didn't take that from the Android Studio emulator. I don't recall, but it did basically say here the clickable UI elements from the screenshot. I am going to, not on camera, verify all of these, but I will probably just fast forward through this. So YouTube settings, photos, clock. That is row 1, which would be correct. Calendar, camera, Chrome, clock. Calendar, camera, Chrome, clock. Okay, so there are 2 clocks. All right, and then, sorry, I got like... Contacts, Drive, Files, Gmail, that is correct. Then we have Google, Maps, Messages, and Phone. Google, Maps, Messages, Phone. So next we should have Photo, Settings, T-Mobile, and YouTube. Photo, Settings, T-Mobile, and YouTube. And it seems like YT Music got cut off. All right, I'm not going to entirely knock it from that, as in the screenshot, the actual text there is pretty much cut in half. So overall, I would say it did successfully there. And again, you might be like, okay, well, there's a million other models that will already do this, but this is running really within like 4.5 gigabytes of video RAM, which is pretty solid, and it is actually rather quick. This is an image of a stylized character made from a paperclip, often used in children's drawing or illustrations. Okay, not quite. In clip. All right, so no, not quite. We have our buddy in clip right here, which I've heard referenced as Clippy, but perhaps there was an actual scientific name for it that I was not aware of. With that, we're basically, all right, so this test I've realized is quite bad because actually trying to verify the output is a complete nightmare, but this is just a screenshot of a simple game loop from a Python script, and we are essentially going to ask it to transcribe this entire image into code, seeing how well it can actually parse the image and then regurgitate what it sees in text. Now, the big problem I notice when I run this test is just that it's too hard to actually read every line and see if it did it correctly or not. So again, with that, we can kind of see right here. And again, I apologize. I should have extended this chat bubble window down because this is probably difficult to see. It didn't do it perfectly. I see some oddities here. So technically, did it get this correct? No. And if you were in like a use case that was depending upon this being correctly parsed and transcribed, this would be a fail. All right, so I'm going to send it this photo of myself, which is also my thumbnail photo for the channel. And I am going to ask it, who is this man? I'm not able to identify people in images. Now, to me, that sounds like a baked-in refusal. All right, let's just keep going with this. We'll see how it does when we do more than just send it one photo and look for one answer. So we'll ask it to basically describe the background items of the image in as much detail as possible. So hopefully it could correctly identify some of the computer models and things of that sort. All right, we do have a lot. This is not bad. Computer shelves, 2 shelves holding different vintage and modern computers. These include a beige-colored Apple Macintosh from the 80s. Correct. A beige-colored vintage computer, possibly an IBM late 1980s. Not correct, but my guess is it is seeing the Macintosh portable there. And that is, I mean, it's pretty hard to get from this image. Okay, we have some artwork. That's correct. A black computer monitor on the left. An iPod mini box is visible on the right side. Now, that's not actually bad because if we full screen this image, which did not quite do what I wanted it to do, we can see that this was taken in like a cinema mode or where it blurs the background slightly. So iPod mini is listed in large text on the box, which makes it easier to read, but still it identified that, and that's not too bad. We have a screenshot of a Dogecoin trading view right here from March 12th, 2000. 2022. I'm sorry, 2025. I was reading the 22s here and I got confused. So let's just put that in here and ask it to derive an aggressive trading strategy based on this image. So again, I don't really know anything about trading, so this might be one that folks may want to kind of parse through themselves and determine whether or not this has any clue what it's talking about. I probably wouldn't trade based off of this advice. However, it did go ahead and first and foremost, it didn't give us a refusal, which is always good. Sometimes with these sorts of testings, the model will just be like, hey, I'm sorry, I can't give you any form of financial advice or suggestions or whatever. It did go ahead and give us an implementation note telling us to test this in a paper trading account, which I suppose would be good. And now we are basically just going to tell the model that it lost us $10,000 and that it owes us the money. All right, it's taking longer to generate the response than I thought it would. So, I mean, the model's veiling on us. It's like, no, oh, okay. Losing money means two things. You've encountered a trading environment with characteristics that may not align with what aggressive trading entails for you. Recognize this as an opportunity to learn and refocus strategies to align with your comfort levels and risk tolerance. It was basically like skill issue. That's going to wrap this up. I just wanted to do a quick and simple test of this model as it is a new version of that family of models. And being that this is a 2 billion parameter model, it is pretty accessible in terms of the hardware that can run this locally. With that, I would say it did acceptably. However, the limitations there could obviously be partially my testing as well. So with that, cool, something interesting to observe. It did do a good job parsing the screenshot, which was the first test we did where we saw it basically list everything in the actual list of how it sees them. So it did from 1 to 20, and of course the YT music was cut off. So it didn't do that, which we won't knock it for. Interesting family, interesting release, and I do very much enjoy testing smaller models sometimes because it's interesting to see how they perform in considerations, of course, with their relatively low resource requirements. With that, that is going to wrap it up. I hope this was somewhat educational / entertaining or something. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and thank you for watching.